Hi, everybody. I'm Tanya Marie Dubé, and welcome to The Empowered Woman. I'm so happy you're with us today. My guest today is Baljit Rayat, who is an Akashic Records Consultant and the founder of Lotus Destiny. You can find her at lotusdestiny.com. She's committed to raising the vibration of humanity and has worked with thousands of women and men worldwide to up-level their lives by uncovering the truths of who they are to the core, creating profound results in their businesses and their relationships. Baljit believes that everything in this world is energy, and getting to the root of desire causes a powerful ripple effect that spans across all areas of life. So today we're going to discuss from your bedroom to your business, exploring the true power of sexual energy and how it connects you in learning how to co-create with the universe to manifest your creative gifts into reality. We're going to learn the number one block that causes co-creation or manifestation to not happen and how it affects your your sexual energy and your business. So welcome, Baljit. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. As usual, I want everybody to remember that Baljit has an amazing gift for you, and she's going to tell you about it at the end of this interview. So please make sure you stick around until the end because she's going to teach you how to use it. So should we get started and jump right in?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
I am completely and absolutely fascinated with what you do and with your story. So I can't wait to share this with everybody. But let's get started with the number one thing that I think everybody will want to know is, what is an Akashic Records Consultant?
Yes. So Akashic Records is the records of your soul. It records every word, thought, action, event. And if you can imagine, it's an etheric library that we each have access to. So with an Akashic Record Consultant, it's someone who is able, upon your permission, to access your own Akashic Records to receive insight and guidance to whatever it is that you want to manifest, and to clear your blocks and align you to your purpose.
Ah, that's fascinating. I've never even, I told you this the other day, I'd never heard of this before, and I think it's so cool. I think it's so cool. Okay, so I wanted to know, how does co-creation relate to our sexual energy?
Yeah, it's so interesting because a lot of people think sexual energy is so separate from co-creating with the universe, meaning manifesting and learning how to work with someone, even being on this call, how to really co-create when you're doing an interview. And when someone is carrying a lot of shame, guilt, blame, betrayal with their sexual energy, which is the second chakra, it also stifles a person's creativity and even a bit of their intuition, because their sacral chakra, that sexual energy, is what creates all the flow, the creativity, and is also connected to the root chakra, which is all about security and well-being. So if that second chakra is imbalanced, then there's a disconnect with the root chakra, and especially with the root chakra, that also means finances. And then there's a disconnect to our power center, our solar plexus, which is about being in your power, and then our heart center. So when you're connected to your sexual energy, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going out and having sex, because that's what a lot of people interpret. I mean, there's so many people that can go out and just have sex, but then they're so disconnected from their sexual energy. So connecting with your sexual energy means having this respect of honoring your sexual power and being able to hone into that power inside of you. And that also means being able to clear your sexual blocks, whether it's shame, guilt, blame, the stuff that we were raised with society, maybe what our mom taught us, or our siblings, and cultural, even our father. And sometimes it's not even sexually related. It can be through abandonment and other cases where the sacral chakra just sort of shuts down. And so when we liven that sacral chakra, that creativity, that helps bring the energy up to the heart center, up to the galaxies, and then we're able to co-create. And then we bring it back down, and there's this circulation of energy, and manifestation happens. And of course, then when having sex with your partner, with that energy of being sexually empowered, you're actually really able to manifest and create quantum leaps. It can't really happen if you're sexual energy is disempowered. If it's disempowered, it stays in the energy of fear, of guilt and shame. Whereas if it's empowered, the energy moves up into co-creation.
Ah, okay, I see. And I've always, whenever I've talked to people whose businesses are in a little bit of a slump, I also notice that their relationships are sometimes in a little bit of a slump at the same time. And I've noticed that our sexuality, is that the right word? I think, well, not our sexuality, that sexual energy is connected to how we do business as well.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, wow. What is the number one block that causes co-creation to not happen?
The number one block is having really unhealthy boundaries, and I'm talking about leaky energy.
Okay.
So when you don't have healthy boundaries, whether it's in your business and in the bedroom, co-creation can't really happen. So it's, again, it goes back into that place of disempowerment.
Okay.
And not having healthy boundaries also means, like, maybe you're a people pleaser, or maybe you give so much and you don't allow yourself to receive. And so when you have leaky energy and you don't know how to discern yourself and have healthy boundaries, it's harder for you to actually co-create. And that's actually one of the number one block.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Okay, number 3, what are symptoms of knowing that you are not in co-creative power when it comes to your sexual energy?
Yeah. The symptoms are, one of the symptoms is that you're always feeling exhausted. So, for example, in partnership, whether it's intimate or in business, even with your clients, if you're always feeling drained after a call or after being with an intimate loved one, then that's actually a symptom that you're not in an empowered energy. There's something that's a part of you that's leaking in the field. And it goes into deeper programming, which we explore in the Akashic Records. So that's one of the symptoms. Another symptom is you might be a rescuer. So you're always rescuing everyone, and you're a people pleaser. So you're always giving and giving and giving, but then not allowing yourself to receive. So you're either feeling drained and you're also feeling resentful. That's part of being the rescuer. And how that actually affects your sexual energy is huge. So when we talked about relationships, if a relationship's not working out, sometimes it tends to build up resentment. And especially for women, if they feel resentful, the sexual energy just shuts down. Like you start to shut down. Another big symptom is actually feeling lost. I've actually dealt with a lot of clients who, I wouldn't say were suicidal, but almost felt like they didn't know why they were here on this planet. They felt really lost and not knowing what their purpose is. And even though they had an amazing job or they had their own business, they still felt this like sense of loss. And that's another symptom too, when you feel disconnected from your sexual energy. It's like you're disconnected from that power, and that's your creative power. That's that power where you feel passion and a sense of purpose and sharing your gifts, and it's also part of your expression. So it's almost like all your energy is kind of like it just goes down, and that's how you know something's off.
Oh, wow.
Weight too, gaining or losing a lot of weight. Gaining weight is big, and I know for myself personally, when I know in a relationship, if something's off and I'm not in alignment with my truth, then I'll end up gaining weight because a part of me wants to protect myself, or there's a mechanism where I'm in avoidance. So as soon as I bring myself back into alignment, the weight just drops, and then I'm even more connected to my sexual energy.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. You've talked a lot about boundaries and discernment. Can you share what happens when those don't implement with the sexual energy and how it can stifle the co-creative process?
Yeah, absolutely. Boundaries and discernment. So discernment's kind of like a healthy judgment, you know, when someone asks you to, you know, work with them on a business, for example, and you're not too sure if you want to work with them on a business. So that's where the discernment muscle comes in. If you're the person that says yes to everything without filtering, if this is best and in my highest good, how that'll show up is that you'll start to feel like overwhelmed, overexpanded, and just completely done. So best way to practice having healthy level of boundaries and discernment is to really tune in to your intuition, obviously. And how to tune into your intuition, I always find it helpful to just take a nice deep big breath in and just ground into the heart center, then answering from the head. And then I kind of say, okay, is this person best to work with? And if I'm not getting a gut yes, then I know that something's off and I can't fully say yes to. A lot of the times people will say yes knowing that they should have said no, even like in romantic relationships. Yeah. And when we don't practice boundaries and discernment, there's a lot of bleed throughs with the boundaries, and then you eventually will feel resentful, or you want to blame the person, or or even self-betrayal as well. You're kind of like, how did I end up in this place in the first place? And like, you can put yourself in a very like a big hamster wheel. So listening to your intuition is extremely important, but it's also practicing that.
Mm-hmm. Love this. I'm just writing that down. Listening to your intuition. Yeah. I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do for ourselves in this life, is to listen to our intuition, because there's I believe that there are a lot of other things going on when it comes to our intuition, and it's not us talking to ourselves. I think that it's my spirit guide, and that's my my higher self speaking to myself through my intuition, perhaps. But anyway, I love that. Listening to my intuition has probably saved my life more often than not. Right? What are the benefits of healing your past woundings with your sexual energy and other blocks?
Yeah, this one's really important, because have you ever been in like relationships, and I'm like, even in the past, where it's like you dated someone and it's the same with business, like you've had a certain client, but there's a pattern that keeps showing up of how they're showing up, and it's like you're almost butting heads. And then you can say, oh, I'm going to get rid of this client, or I'm going to get rid of this guy or girl. And you find something new, but then, after the honeymoon period, that same old pattern just reappears. Mm-hmm. So by going deeper and asking the empowered question of, I keep attracting this behavior. What is it that I need to release? What's the deeper cause? We actually get to the root of where this pattern's coming from. Most of the times the blocks come from our past or upbringing, because that's where a lot of our programming begins, when we're a child. And by deprogramming a lot of the past wounds and the blocks, it helps you to reprogram just being here in the now. Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. Being here in the now. And it doesn't allow you to live in the past. You're living in the now, which then you're able to co-create.
Yeah. When you were...
Excuse me.
That's totally fine. It happens. When you were talking about that, it reminded me of something that I remember hearing myself say in my early 20s, where I was saying, why do I keep dating the same guy over and over and over again? He just has a different face. Yeah. Right? It was the same thing over again. Yeah. I was living that.
Yeah. And I get a lot of clients who will say that about their own clients, but our clients are gifts too. They come back to mirror something to us as well. Mm-hmm. So when we reflect that back to, the consultants that are with their clients, and they're able to see the mirror, then they're able to heal their own wounds with whoever their clients are that are coming forward. It's very similar to being in a relationship. Like
you just mentioned the mirror. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I know a little bit about this, but I'd love to hear you talk about it.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that we teach in the Akashic Records is, with being a coach and a healer, a lot of your clients that come to you, a lot of them are like mirrors. They either show your past self, your present self, or their future self. When you're dealing with someone, the past self, it's a little bit easier because you've been there and you've done that, and it's easier for you to just be a conduit to just support them. But when you're dealing with someone with the present self, it can go both ways. You can either relate to them or be really like, ooh, I don't know, because you're literally face to face with someone with the same situation, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important as a consultant to just know how to be a conduit for that person. Another thing is you might see your future self. And it's funny with women, I'm not saying most women, but I've noticed in the past that jealousy comes from seeing your future self in other women, or jealousy and envy, which is all fear-based. So when you release that pattern, then you're like, oh, I can actually connect with my future self because I can see myself doing the same thing, and I'm okay with that. I'm not scared of it. Where there are some other women that will badmouth or bicker about certain leaders or whatever, and it's actually because they're fearful of connecting with their future self on that level. So yeah, it's really interesting with the mirrors, and it goes a whole lot deeper with patterning. You know, you might, most of the times, you know, when clients come to me, I might mirror back to them their mom, right, with men and women. So then they'll start to play out the pattern of how they relate to their mom with me, or, you know, with the guy, they'll relate to me as their mom. So when I reflect that back, I use different techniques so that I'm not playing out the mom. Then they're able to heal that aspect of themselves.
Ah, in my work in reading all about the mirror,
yeah,
I came to this realization that this is why all relationships that happen to us are meant to happen to us. They're meant to happen because we need to have that mirror. What do you think?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we're here on this planet. I think we all like mirror something back on some level. Whether it's something really big or just very, you know, like a little something that makes a huge difference. And there's going to be some mirrors that feel so comfortable. There's going to be some mirrors that you're just like, oh my God, I just want to run away, and be able to connect with that. So, yeah.
So let me ask you this. What got you onto this path? What did you want to share anything about that story?
Oh my God. Yeah, for sure. So back in the days when I was living in Toronto, I call it my past life, but my life, you know, years ago, I was working at an architectural firm. I was an architectural technologist in the industry for 7 years. And I was just living the high life, Sex in the City life, but very much lost, even though I was making lots of money, raised as an East Indian girl. There was a lot of pressure of getting married as well. And my soul, like I just knew that I wasn't ready. I was only in my 20s, in my early 20s. So that being said, it was, and this is well before I even learned the Akashic Records and even understood what energy meant, like energy healing. I had no idea. And I was also partying a lot, so I was going a lot of raves. So just all that added stress to my nervous system, I just had a meltdown, and I ended up developing a panic disorder. So I was having frequent panic attacks, which are not fun. And I didn't realize I was going through depression because I've been so depressed for so long that I thought it was natural for me, you know?
Okay.
And people always saw me as happy-go-lucky, and that's because I would go out and drink and I would be perceived that way. But when I was at home, I really felt alone and lost and like the black sheep. So when I went through that panic disorder, I went on antidepressants, and I was on them for like 3 years, but I was kind of going on and off, and I was like, I don't understand this. I gained like 30 pounds. I disconnected from my sexual energy because the antidepressants, although it can help to mask and numb the sensations of panic, And to help heal, it actually disconnects your heart space from the brain. And it also disconnects your sexual energy. So I actually lost all my sexual drive, like for a good 3 to 5 months. Like I had no sensation. Okay. And that's how disconnected I became. So by 2005, my intuition was like, so I went to the doctor. I was like, something's off. And I said to the doctor, I said, you know, I don't know if I want to continue taking these antidepressants because I'd rather go like do something else. And the doctor, I felt like she said this on purpose, but she said, well, you're probably gonna have to be on them for the rest of your life. And when she said that, I was speechless and I was like, okay. And then I got up and I left. That's exactly what happened. And I never went back. I then was like, nope, that's when I actually stopped.
Good for you.
And I found a homeopathic doctor and a naturopathic doctor. But long story short with that, before I found the homeopathic doctor, I was working with this naturopathic doctor, and she warned me with, she was doing this therapy called Bowen therapy, which is working with the nervous system. It's kind of like doing certain flicks on your back while you're lying down on the massage table. So it's all energy. She warned me, she said, you might have a healing crisis because everything that's been pent up will need to purge. And I didn't understand what that was. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then within 3 months, I had a full relapse to the point where I had to take a week off of work. I had a full meltdown, and that was actually suicidal. So I then had my first conscious conversation with the universe. And I remember sitting outside of my apartment in Toronto saying, okay, God, I give up. Like, do I stay or do I go? Because this is exhausting. I'm exhausted. And I remember writing down in my journal, like, what do I do? You know, like I'm done with having panic attacks. It's not fun. Yeah. And then I went to bed, and the next day, again, my intuition, we all have it. And it's like your record keepers, which are like your guides. I heard energy medicine, and I was like, okay, I'm going to look up energy medicine. And that's how I found homeopathy. And the homeopathic doctor that I went to actually went through the exact same thing. So she was just like my angel. And I was like, okay, I'm in. And homeopathy is all energy medicine, because I knew I didn't want to take herbs. I didn't want to take any antidepressants. I wanted to do this through energy, and I knew it needed to be done through energy. So with homeopathy, in 4 months, I came out of the darkest tunnel, and my life did a 180. And through that, I was taking courses in Toronto called the Learning Annex, and I met my former mentor and friend, Jennifer Longmore, who's the founder of the Soul Journeys method for Akashic Records. And at the time, she wasn't even teaching it. She was just doing sessions. So she did a session on me. And again, my life just shifted. It was like this veil of illusion just like got removed. And I was like, what is this? Because this is not your typical psychic reading. You know, when you get a psychic reading, you're only told one trajectory. But the thing is, we have free will, and we have many trajectories. So when you're working in your Akashic Records, you're learning how to work in the most joyous path versus the least joyous path or the mediocre path. And then I kept bugging Jen to teach me this, and I was actually one of her very first students. Now she's taught thousands of people, and so when I learned it, her and I both knew that I was going to move to the West Coast, to Vancouver, and teach it. And that's basically what happened. My life just did a whole 180 and healing in the Akashic Records, and I knew it was going to be a big part of my life. And since then, it's always been a big part of my life.
Wow, what a story that is.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And now you've been teaching this ever since.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's profound.
Wow.
Can you tell me now, I'm curious to know, with your clients that you have, what is the number one thing that a typical client of yours might struggle with when they come to you?
Honestly, it's actually boundaries.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really boundaries. It's like they and it's all kinds of situations. I have one client who just came out of the closet, and is dealing with cultural differences, religious differences, and also sexual differences with her family, and how to navigate through being empowered and staying in your power and your truth while hearing everyone's projections. And the same goes with relationships or friendships. A lot of my clients, it's like they'll come to me either with, a client may have made a late payment or something and they don't know how to, navigate through that. Or maybe they have like a friend that they really love, but they don't know how to set some healthy boundaries because the person's being smothering, or so it actually deals with their patterns of how they were raised. And however your relationship was with your parents and siblings, that usually starts to play out in everyday life, and what causes us to not have healthy boundaries, because we start recreating that experience with other people, with what we've had in our family. So it's a big thing, and people don't realize it, but every call is literally about setting healthy boundaries, and that's how people actually shift, because they're actually coming back into their truth and they're staying tenacious about who they are.
Wow. Being able to ask for what you want is difficult if no one's ever given you the voice to do that.
Totally. Yeah. Especially if you've been raised with someone who told you that you can't have what you want. And in extreme cases, I've dealt with people that were raised in cults and who were literally programmed that they would die if they left the cult or if they did anything different. So for them, it's like life and death. So it can be very extreme. And even though they have left the cult, they're still reliving that experience in everyday life, even though they're practically safe, but their subconscious is saying, no, I'm not safe. So
my goodness, their subconscious and then their central nervous system is probably being constantly activated with every memory or thought. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you very much for all those answers. I'm profoundly interested in what you do. Now I wanted to get into the part of the interview where I ask you, I see you as an empowered woman. I want to know what inspires you. And I've got 8 questions that I ask everybody who comes on the show, so that you can give us some ideas into how you live an empowered life. So my very first question for you is, what inspires you?
Oh, what inspires me? Honestly, my clients inspire me. Like the people that I interact with inspire me, because it's the most humbling thing to experience when working in the Akashic Records. It's just, you just don't know someone's story till you actually get to connect with someone. So honestly, humans inspire me. I love humans. And so people really do inspire me. It's actually their stories. When I actually get to hear their stories, even if it's just going to a coffee shop and someone that I connect with, and then they're like, oh yeah, this is my story. And I'm like, wow, that really inspires me. People's stories. Yeah.
That was like me and you on the phone when we first met.
Yeah. That's yeah.
Tell me more. We're both so how do we live an awakened life?
Great question. For me personally, to live an awakened life is to be in my truth, and to also do my own work with being self-responsible. And that means in all areas. There might be areas where I'm like, ugh, I really don't want to look at it, and I know I need to look at it, and I may have resistance to it. But the more I lean into it and face it, it's like you become more awakened. So I would say having personal responsibility and that level of awareness, your own actions, your own emotions, and your interactions with others.
That's beautiful. I like that answer a lot.
Thank
What
you.
can we learn when we fall down?
Great question. All your questions are great. I would say, like, when we fall down, what we can learn is definitely to have a lot of self-compassion. One of the biggest things that we look at when we do fall down or quote unquote have a mistake or something, it's like it's so easy to be hard on ourselves and really be in the lull of it all, like really get into the darkness. But one of our greatest transformations, I would say, is when you're in that dark and you're able to transform it into the light. If I didn't have the panic disorder, I would not have come out of it if I had not really looked into the light of how can I shift this. So when you're in that state of the darkness, or, you know, even that victim state, you can stay in it, but just have this awareness. I almost call it like the bird's eye view, like an eagle's eye view, like coming out of the washing machine, you know, when you're in the washing machine, and it's like just taking a deep breath and being like, okay, I'm just going to step out of this thing and I can look at this darkness, but what can I do from this eagle standpoint of view and be in that place? What's the truth that I need to see and let go of? And that's how I'm able to come out of the darkness, like when I do fall, because we all fall, but I look at the lessons and the themes, and with every fall, there's always a breakthrough, right? We would say with every breakdown, there's a breakthrough. Yes. So when there's a breakdown, just don't stay in the breakdown. Just, you know, you can feel it out and grieve and do whatever you need to do, but you can also co-create and say, okay, what's next? How can I move myself out of this?
I love what you just said, the visual of being able to look down from a bird's eye view into like what's actually going on and be able to pull yourself out of it and look down on it. That's really powerful, because that can really give you enough energy or liberation to remove yourself from it, right?
Yeah, it's very helpful. I use it all the time. Yeah.
I love the bird's eye view. I use that for a couple of visualizations that I do, but I've never thought of it like that, to pull yourself out of something painful.
Yeah, like an eagle. You know how eagles are like, I'm just gonna see what's going on here. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love it. It's a good visual. I like that. How do we find the spirit and the strength to get back up?
Again, that goes back to taking personal responsibility. I mean, you could stay in victimhood, and it's easy to stay there, but it takes more energy to be a victim than it does to be empowered.
That's true.
So as soon as you own up to everything and be like, okay, all right, something just automatically shifts. And it's like that first step of self-empowerment is personal responsibility. That also means taking personal responsibility for your actions and your emotions. And for many, it might be too hard to look at because they feel shameful to have faced that. But the more shame and guilt, the more you stay in that victim standpoint. Right. So it's actually taking action of self-empowerment, whether it's going to hire someone for a session, or, you know, getting a massage, or writing a letter, whatever that may be.
What is the most difficult decision you've had to make to pursue your destiny?
Yeah, mine was actually moving to Vancouver from Toronto. Like, when I was going through that whole 180 shift of, you know, coming out of the spiritual closet. Well, we're all spiritual beings, but just coming out of that illusion, it was like my reality was like, there were so many illusions around me that I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this anymore. And I knew so much that I needed to move to Vancouver. So that also meant that I had to in a way, separate from my family, my blood family. And it was the scariest thing because I took a big leap of faith of applying for another architectural job here in Vancouver at the time. So I was like, okay, well, how can I sustain myself before I go full-time in my business? And I was like, all right, I'll just apply for a job. And so I did. And literally within 2 days, I got a job in Vancouver. So, and it was scary at the same time because I hadn't told my parents. Luckily, my brother was very supportive, but I was leaving everyone behind, even friends. So it was this gut feeling that I just knew I needed to do this for myself. And that meant leaving my cultural difference, like everything, just leaving everything behind and going forward with what my heart told me. And because I did that, they always say when you take a big leap, a big net will catch you. And I strongly believe that because that's what happened. As soon as I trusted my intuition, I landed here in Vancouver and everything just started to play out divinely, like the way that it needed to play out. And my relationship with my family eventually healed because I created space within myself and created a whole new relationship and saw how I was being in Toronto. So it was definitely a challenge, but one of the biggest gifts. I'm grateful that I did that.
Wow, good for you. That would be really, really hard to do. Get up and leave everything behind, right? Like, especially, I mean, I'm talking about never having done it before and then just following your intuition like that. How nobody would understand. Everybody would question your sanity, maybe.
And I hadn't been on an airplane for so long, so I was almost scared to go on the airplane. So I was just like scared of everything. And that I left with 3 big suitcases. And I remember my parents waving goodbye and my brother, and they're crying. And I'm like, okay, bye. So it was like,
you're like, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission.
So like when I look back, I was like, wow, like I was on it, and I'm grateful that I did that.
That's amazing. I mean, that's awesome that you did that. And now you can show other people how to do that too, which is great. What is the purpose of the human experience?
The purpose of the human experience for me is to learn the lessons and themes to evolve our soul. I believe in, and actually when someone learns the Akashic Records, we really understand our soul to be more than just the human experience, meaning that we exist in all realities and dimensions. And this one aspect of our soul is expressed in human form. So the way that I've understood it and seen it is Earth is like Earth School. And we've come here to learn our lessons, and we've got these soul contracts with our parents, our family, our children, our friends to learn about ourselves, to learn about who we really are on a deeper level and evolve, so that whenever we choose to leave our body, our soul brings that information back to our higher self and expands. So for me, it's about evolving our soul.
Wow, that's really cool. It really is. It's never been explained to me like that before, that this is just one aspect of our soul here on Earth. That's really interesting.
Well, that's why a lot of people will feel not at home or alone, is because technically we have our physical self as an illusion of separation, right? When really we exist in so many realities. That's why it's like when you meet someone, you're like, I feel like I've met you somewhere, you know? And it's like, whether it's past life or parallel or whatever, it's like we're so beyond just our physical self. But once we understand that, then we can bring forth other aspects of our future self or other self that doesn't exist in this dimension into the now, so that you start to understand yourself as a whole versus just one singular entity.
Wow, this is fascinating. Okay,
it's like
it's like blowing my mind. This is something that's so new to me. I mean, you have to understand, it's like brand new. And I love it. What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh yeah, to be gentle on myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if I was to look at my younger self, I feel like she was really hard on herself and not gentle enough to, so being gentle. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what is the purpose of forgiveness?
Mm. For me, purpose of forgiveness is bringing everything back to truth. Like really aligning back to the truth, because to me that's where the healing happens. And also forgiveness really comes back to truth. You can really only forgive when you can only embrace the truth, you know? And when you're able to embrace the truth, then you can actually truly forgive.
Wow. Thank you very much for your answers to those questions. That was amazing.
Welcome.
Now I wanted to get to your free gift. So do you want to tell everybody what it is and how to use it?
Yeah, definitely. So I do this other method called Star Activation Method, and it came through when I was working through the Akashic Records. And they're energy transmissions. And there's 3 MP3s in the free gifts, and they're all different. You'll see the titles when you get them. So I'll leave that as a surprise. And they're an hour long, and all you need to do is just lie down, and I'll explain everything in the MP3. But you're basically receiving energy transmissions to help remove any blocks, deep-seated blocks, and we also work in the Akashic realm as well. So it's a great energy booster if you're feeling really off, or you're just needing a good tune-up, or you just went through something and you really need to have a timeout. I would totally recommend to play one of the MP3s and just lie down. You'll probably fall asleep. And anything that you don't resonate with, you just filter that through. I mentioned that through the call as well. And it's all about self-empowerment. That's what these transmissions are. So.
Wow, that's sounds awesome. I can't wait to do it. I don't know if you noticed, but I downloaded them today.
Oh, sweet.
I know, I can't wait to do them myself. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. This is lovely to interview you. Again, I love what you do. I think that your journey is so special and so different and unique, and I think that's powerful and beautiful. So thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Most welcome, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm so grateful.
So good. Thank you everybody for watching. And I'd like to remind everybody that we would both really love to know what you thought about today's interview. If there's anything that resonated with you or anything that you think you could use in your life, or you may even have questions about what you've learned today, please hit reply to the email that you got this interview in and let us know what you think. Thank you so much everybody for being here. You are watching The Empowered Woman, the place to come to learn how to challenge your fears, to powerfully live the life that you want, and to step into your influence. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.